Welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving into a fascinating and honestly a deeply profound philosophy today. It's by an author named Feng, based on a text titled Selflessness is the Advanced State of Life. Now, if you've ever felt like life is just this constant uphill battle of the ego, the concepts we're about to unpack are going to completely flip your perspective. We're going to explore what actually constitutes the absolute highest, most advanced state of human life. So let's jump right in. So, how do you find your true self? It is arguably the most classic philosophical question in human history, right? I mean, we are constantly told to find ourselves, to build up our personal brand, to protect our egos at all costs. But what if that entire approach is actually the very thing making us miserable? Well, here is the twist. According to our source material, the only way to find your true self is by completely losing it. Think about how exhausting it is to constantly calculate your gains and your losses every single day. Feng argues that as long as you have a sense of self, an ego, literally everything becomes a heavy burden. With an ego, even the absolute simplest acts, like eating, sleeping, or just lying flat, turn into a stressful event. The ego just makes existence incredibly heavy. So, to find the true self, the ego absolutely has to go. Section 1. The Paradox of Self. The true self is found in selflessness. It's really fascinating how Feng defines selflessness here. We aren't just talking about being polite or nice to people. It's defined as a state where the self is completely lost. And when that happens, the heart opens up, the spirit becomes free, and divinity blooms. The text describes this specific no-mind state as the state of celestial being, the Elysium world, and really the absolute peak experience of life. Section 2. Reaching the peak experience, transcending the conventional sensation. To really ground this idea, the source points to a surprisingly visceral example of when we actually naturally lose our ego. It points to the experience of a sexual climax. According to the text, when someone transcends the peak of conventional sensation, they enter a state of spiritual awareness. The physical scene literally vanishes and you cross over into a non-material spiritual world. In that exact moment, the sense of self is entirely forgotten, and yet there is an experience of infinite beauty. So the crucial question is, who exactly is experiencing that beauty if the ego is gone? Well, Feng says it's the true self. But it's not just about physical peaks. Think about Nobel Prize winners. Feng argues that to discover the vast mysteries of the world, these brilliant minds absolutely must have, at some point, entered the spiritual light of selflessness. It's virtually impossible to achieve truly brilliant results while you're tangled up in your own ego. You literally have to step out of your own way to let the genius flow. Section 3. The Art of Flow. The Beauty of Without. This text channels the supreme guidance of Shakyamuni Buddha, which is the no form of self. Listen to this. The most exquisite swordsmanship is without a sword. The most exquisite mental method is without a mind. The most exquisite management is no management. The pattern here is crystal clear, isn't it? The most exquisite self is selflessness. The most exquisite communication is Zen. To truly master anything, you have to drop the ego that's frantically trying to control it. Section 4. Navigating Everyday Annoyances. The Self versus the Mundane. Okay, we have all been here, working with a deeply selfish coworker. If you approach them with your ego, you're constantly calculating your own gains and losses. You clash. You get infuriated and vexed because your selfish ego is just bumping right into theirs. But take the ego out of the equation, cooperation is suddenly easy. You just satisfy their desires and let them have the benefits. Because you have no ego to bruise, the friction just vanishes, and the whole atmosphere becomes instantly harmonious. Here's another deeply frustrating, everyday scenario from the text. Caring for an unreasonable patient who can't care for themselves. With an ego, the source notes you probably wouldn't be able to bear it for even 3 days. It's simply too heavy a burden. But without an ego, you're never annoyed. Instead, you simply appreciate a different kind of scenery in this world. It completely transforms caregiving from an exhausting nightmare into a really calm observation of life. Section 5. The Illusion of Form. Breaking down our aversions. Now, let me ask you something a little provocative. Would you dare to use water from a completely clean toilet to wash your face and brush your teeth? Your visceral, immediate reaction is probably absolute disgust, right? No way! But hold on to that feeling for a second because it perfectly proves Feng's point. Think about this water paradox. The water in a pristine, brand new, clean toilet bowl is chemically identical to the water that flows right out of your bathroom tap. It is exactly the same water. So why does one feel perfectly fine and the other feel absolutely disgusting? Well, Shufeng argues that the difference in how it feels isn't the water quality at all. It's a pure illusion created by the presence of the self. The ego assigns a form or a judgment to the toilet water. Your disgust is 100% fabricated by your ego. Following that logic, there is no essential difference between cleaning a toilet and sweeping an emperor's throne. Though, the emperor might strongly disagree with that. But the point is, if you invest yourself in any task with complete self-forgetfulness, you're going to find endless joy. The difference in status only exists if you have an ego that actually cares about status. Section 6. Two Paths of Life. The Ultimate Dichotomy. So it all comes down to two paths. If you navigate the journey of life with a self, it acts as a cruel competition and a constant battle. You are always on edge, always defending your territory. But if you live without a self, life just becomes a really interesting journey. Your focus shifts entirely, too. With a self, you tend toward the lower realms, where everything appears as a stressful, exhausting struggle for profit. But drop that ego, and you elevate to the higher realms, where everything just appears as a fun game. And how does this affect your environment? With a self, you look around and you see thorns, traps, and constant danger everywhere. Your ego literally creates a perceived world of threat. But without a self, there are clear skies and bright prospects everywhere you look. The physical world doesn't actually change, your lens does. And finally, the perspective. This is so incredibly powerful. With a self, you are always looking up at the world, feeling small, defensive, and burdened by it all. But without a self, you look down on the world. And that's not with arrogance, but with the elevated clarity and absolute freedom of a spirit that is finally untethered. So I'll leave you with this. How is your own ego shaping your reality right now? Will you spend today looking up at thorns and traps, burdened by the constant need to protect yourself? Or will you let it go, open your heart, and spend today looking down on an interesting, beautiful journey? The choice and the freedom is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it gave you a powerful new lens on life.